we are capable, but what stops us is imposter syndrome and intergenerational trauma. So I realised just standard coaching, sitting down, how's your day today? Doesn't work. We need a really holistic approach. So I brought all my tools. It just makes it, yeah.
You know why I need to take a moment? Because it's such a powerful statement, that divine feminine.
Sorry.
As a professional artist, what advice would you give to students like me who are trying to make a career out of art? Like, it's clearly that you've done really well with your career.
It's not the same as coaching, there's no 50k there. But no, I'm joking, but yeah.
Yeah.
What advice?
Yeah.
And you know, there's this debate of nature versus nurture, and I think that my nature was creative, but my environment, you know, Newham is such a mixing pot of different people, styles, music. You know, growing up in the 70s, there was so much different genres of music we had: pop, rock, punk, soul. And as a young girl, I used to watch. My sister used to buy Ebony magazine, and so yeah, I would read up so much.
Wow.
And so that was the only time I saw people that looked like me. That wasn't just wearing a brown overcoat. They were fabulous gowns, and so I wanted to be a fashion designer.
KJ Podcast, time to listen to what's going on. KJ in the house, talking about it. KJ Podcast, time to listen to what's going on. KJ in the house, talking about it. KJ.
Hello, I am Karen Jones, aka Kaz, and this is the KJ Podcast. I am super pleased to, yes, I'm in an art studio, and today I will be co-hosting with BAMM, one of our ambassadors for Bennu Ambassadors for Mind Matters. I am in the presence of a wonderful, wonderful, amazing person who our families have known since childhood, and we've reconnected. I am so happy and honoured to be, like, as you can see, ta-da! Introducing somebody who's a multi-disciplinary artist. They have empowered many creative women. They also have a shared love of mind, passionate for storytelling and narrative. Please, yes, Marilyn Fontaine. Thank you so much, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honoured that you have asked me to be on your podcast.
It's a pleasure. Honestly, I feel really quite humbled actually.
Oh,
I do.
lovely.
And to be in your space, there is so much to see. So much to see. Okay, all right. So I have my questions here, and what we're going to do is we're going to sort of just we're going to pause, swap over, and you'll be seeing one of our ambassadors sitting here shortly. So I suppose in doing my research about you, and there's lots to discover about you. You've had an amazing journey. Beautiful, stunning journey. And I think one of the things that we're going to start off with is that sort of fashion creator, yeah? And I suppose what made you step away from the fashion art and now being in this art where you're sort of inspiring others in such a culinary way.
I love the word culinary.
And creative, very creative.
So briefly, I think that when I was young, I just did some work around my upbringing and what inspired me. And, you know, there's this debate of nature versus nurture. And I think that my nature was creative, but my environment, you know, Newham is such a mixing pot of different people, styles, music. You know, growing up in the 70s, there was so much different genres of music we had: pop, rock, punk, soul. And as a young girl, I used to watch. My sister used to buy Ebony magazine, and so I would read up so much.
Wow.
And so that was the only time I saw people that looked like me. That wasn't just wearing a brown overcoat. They were fabulous gowns, and so I wanted to be a fashion designer. And around that time, my art teacher, Mrs. Ovington, saw my potential and started bringing me in Vogue at 13 in St Angela's. So because her niece was a bridal designer, And then my brother-in-law, my elder sister's partner, he was studying pattern cutting. So he mentored me, bought my first massive portfolio carrier, we used to talk about designers. Yves Saint Laurent was my designer from 13. I was exposed to designers like Claude Montana, Gucci, Chanel, not even Gucci at the time, it was Chanel, like really fabulous theatrical designers, like Issey Miyake. So I was really pushed into that because I had mentors. So when I said to my dad I want to be a fashion designer, he said, no, why don't you become a doctor? Did not gear me up to become a doctor, even though I liked biology. Did not gear me up to become a doctor. Oh, why don't I do computers? I was horrified. And I just said, I still want to be a designer. But I didn't really have that kind of support from my parents because, you know, our parents was Caribbean. I was just meant to work for the council. So I did work for the council eventually, did not like it. And then much later, went down a personal development route which led me back to creativity. Very much a hero's journey. Didn't think I would be doing art. But I always kept drawing, but I stopped painting for like 10, 15 years until I just wanted to do it because I was coordinating, I was lecturing, and I needed time to have downtime to manage my stress, so I started to create a journal. And that's what we used to do online. So 2004 around, started to create a journal because I had this really quite stressful job, and then I just left that job and was just teaching in part-time, and then people just started to say to me, can we buy prints? Oh, I want your artwork. And I'm like, what? And then they just said, we want your artwork, can we buy prints? Then they said, can we have an exhibition? And then, oh, can you make a calendar? So I responded to the external world, but that was running concurrent my spiritual journey, and my spiritual journey has always been when an opportunity comes to you, you take it. You know, I think that's my nature.
No, definitely. And I think, mentioning Yves Saint Laurent, there was the Naomi Campbell exhibition at the V&A, and he talks about how Vogue and getting Naomi to be like the black model, so in terms of him supporting black fashion, totally up there. Yeah,
he
100%.
constantly, he literally, Pat Cleveland, I mean, I'm naming some old people, but Monia, a French woman, whenever I opened Ebony, or every time I saw his work, even in the 80s when he did with Gauche, I think, but he always had black models, and that was the only time a young woman from East London would see women, apart from Diana Ross and Donna Summer, you know, and your sister, you know, and my sister, you know, they looked beautiful, but their models were Diana Ross, Donna Summer, and seeing those black women at the back of Ebony magazine. So it did a lot, it incredibly inspired me to look for other, and in my paintings you can see that fashion, that theatrical kind of element. I think it's really shaped me.
Definitely, and the art is amazing here. And I have a print that I have purchased, a mutual friend of ours, I have copied, and it's got the same print, but there's going to be a tweak on it because you do have that sort of style in making every print unique. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, right, going back to my little pad here. So your inspiration, and one of the things is that you supporting creative women, and again doing my research that, and I want to get it right, is that powerfully aligned, created powerfully aligned. So my next question, yes, I'm looking at my questions to be sure, is, I suppose, how has that sort of shaped your own way of working with women?
So for years, I don't know, for about 10 years, I've been coaching women, creative women it turned out towards the end, but because I'd been through such a journey of being a holistic therapist first, so I studied the body, I was doing beauty, and then I decided to do massage and aromatherapy, and loved it.
You can see my face.
I know.
Is there anything on this list that you
didn't do, right? And so it's really interesting because I was working for the council at the time, and that was something it was good because it taught me skills, but my mum said, you can't go and do a degree in fashion, you need to get a job, a 9 to 5. So I went in admin. So to keep me alive, basically I was literally doing courses in the evening. And then I did this beauty therapy and I got a distinction. Because I was just wanting to have like a side business, doing nails. And then I decided I wanted to do massage. Did massage, did really high in biology. Always loved biology, but studying the bones and the blood, how it works. I scored high again. I'm like, there's something here. Before I didn't think I was that confident in doing things. And then, so I did massage, and then one of the teachers said to me, can you work? So I was working for the council, hated it, decided to go 4 days a week. My boss didn't like the fact that I went 4 days a week, so, I went off sick because she wanted me to come back. And I was like, no, I want to do my little business, to keep me sane. In the end, I said to my teacher at Newham College, have you got a job? So she said, start Monday, you're going to be lecturing. And by that time, I'd already done another course, teacher training. It was like a Saturday course. I left and I resigned and said, I'm not coming back. And it was like, what about your mental state? And I was magazines because they would come and interview. It was just so amazing. I was starting to be in spaces where I'd never been before.
Excellent.
So for me, I was doing a lot of massaging, but then my hands started to hurt because I'm obviously massaging clients. I got repetitive strain injury.
Oh, okay.
And Newham at the time, in London and England being the brilliant place it used to be, they used to give free courses. So I'm in a library, I'm always in a library looking at leaflets. There was a leaflet, free NLP course. So I'm like, oh, what's this? Like, curious. And then I saw another free life coaching course with Newcastle College. So I'm like, I'm inquisitive, I want to see this. When I walked into the NLP course, there was a head of school from Greenwich University. This was at Newham's free course. There was all these professional people on this course that was being run by Newham College. I was me and another person, Dolores.
Oh,
there was only two
Yeah.
that was from Newham.
Okay.
And it was a free NLP course.
An NLP.
Free for a year, practitioners, and it changed my life. I was smoking cigarettes at the time. By the end of the first lot, I stopped smoking. I realised that I wanted to work. I saw the good, it could be challenging, but I saw the good it did with people. Honestly, it was amazing. So I finished that, and then I finished my life coaching course, and I thought, I'm going to work with people now because I can't massage people.
Yeah.
So I did that, and it literally changed my life. And at the time, I was doing a cert ed because I was still teaching. So I was doing all that. It all came at once, and it was like, the funding, it was European Social Fund. That was going. So that opportunity wasn't going to happen again. So the minute I finished, they cut all this European Social Fund. Never ran that course again. So many people missed out.
Yeah. And can you just clarify what NLP?
Neurolinguistic programming.
Okay.
So it's a study of model of perfection. So then from then, I was just teaching, and then I was seeing clients alongside each other, and then the teaching got so much that, because everything changes, everything is brilliant, but then when policies come in, governments come in, paperwork comes in, you know, so it was not about teaching people, it was more about paperwork. Again, it's changed because everything's on a computer. But I started to work with women, and one of them was my boss. I used to teach at Beckton, and she was actually she was my manager. She's been my client for like 20 years. So, but I started to see the impact coaching was doing for people. Like, honestly, unbelievable. The kind of the things that would happen with women when they would come, they would see me, and then I just saw so many different women. Then I was holding monthly groups for women. But I've had people that have been doctors, people that have been musicians, like well-known musicians I've worked with, well-known actresses, and it's been weird how they found me. It's been like, well, one actress...
You're worth finding.
Listen, I don't know what... Well, one actress who's well-known, like, she found me on Instagram, we knew mutual people, she said, there's something about you. So when they tell you about, you must do certain things, you have to be authentic. And she said, there's something about you. I used to just create this post, and she just said, I just want to work with you, but I don't know why. And so I said, let's do a consult. And then she just signed up, and then she was up for I always get it wrong, she was correct. She was up for an Emmy, as she was working with me. But what I found with my clients is that, because I work mostly with black women, that's just who's come to me, and I'm a black woman having a lived-in black experience, and so I realised a lot of us have imposter syndrome. So we're really creative, we're really capable, and that's why I created the highly capable coaching program, because we are capable, but what stops us is imposter syndrome and intergenerational trauma. So I realised just standard coaching, sitting down, how's your day today, doesn't work. We need a really holistic approach. So I brought all my tools, my aromatherapy background, so I would coach people and give them an oil to work with, to support them. I would use storytelling, lots of visualization, because I feel like a lot of people, you can't just talk to them, they need a journey. And sometimes I'll use whatever religious thing, I would use angel cards or oracle cards or just affirmation cards, so it would be tailored to that person. And one of the best parts of that system is we've all got a different level of energy. I'm neurodiverse, I've got ADHD, late diagnosis, but even before I got my diagnosis, I realised as creatives, we cannot fit a 9 to 5.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we
100%.
can fit, some people need to time, batch their work. Some people, as I got older with menopause, I work better during the daytime. When the sun goes down,
me too.
my energy levels. But being younger, some people may need to work nighttime, but we need rest and we need time. So with my system was always around, what's your energy like? Because I made, during the pandemic, and I'll be really transparent, I made probably 50 to 60,000, right, working with people. I've never made that kind of money before. And the reason I always tell people that is because I worked around my own nervous system and my energy system. I'm not making that now as an artist. But anyway, I made it, and I got burnt out a lot afterwards, because I was like, I need to keep at that level. Life is like this, and it's in cycles. And so the powerfully aligned is aligning you to your capabilities. Everybody's come to this earth with a story and a gift. And so what is that gift? Let's work with that gift. And then you can get that 100% out of somebody. Yeah. We can't be carbon copies. It doesn't work. And the people at the top, they will never tell you that. They work to their cycles. And enjoy what you're doing, and you can do it 36 hours a day.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you're right about life being sort of in waves, and you're providing a service, a unique service, because what you're doing is acknowledging that all of these women that you're working with, they are unique, and you are identifying with that and tapping into them personally. Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it.
Okay. There isn't anything I think that you haven't done. I'm trying to think, here you are, a lady does a storytelling. I'm going to talk about your documentaries, which is another string to your bow, as they say. So I would say, what inspired you to create the documentaries? So it's going to be like a double question. That's the first question. What inspired you to create documentaries?
Well, again, it's really interesting because someone said to me ages ago, oh, this spiritual journey you chose. I said, I didn't choose it, it chose me. Really interesting thing. So, 2023, I'm making all this money. We're during the pandemic. Life changes. Everybody's redirecting their money. And then I have one client she's based in DC, and Mallory, I'll always thank her for it. And she said to me, you're helping us reach our goals. What about your practice, your art practice? Because I stopped I was creating art, but not at the level I was. I was coaching. And I thought, you know what, she's right. She said, what about your story? And then that was my last coaching client. Although some of them come for an odd session now and again. And then January came, someone sent me something in my inbox saying, there's this funding, why don't you apply for it? Because I've been doing artwork around my family story. So I got it, and then Raw Docs, funny enough, and then when I had the meeting, they said, we're looking, because everything's going digital, we're looking for an audio bite. And me being me said, all right, I'll do that. Then I'm thinking, I can do it afterwards. And there's something in coaching that I've learned, that you always ask your brain, how can we solve this problem? Rather than, I don't know how to do it. It's like, brain, how can I get to that goal? And then your brain will come up with a solution if it's aligned. So I was like, in fact, so I'm taking it as, this is a sign for me. And it worked out amazing because it was an audio project on Tatlam. So it was like, this is so good, I don't have to get a camera crew, very quick. So that's what I did, that first one. The second one, I wanted to do, I'm a roller skater, so I wanted to, this was 4 years talking about doing a documentary with this young guy. And I said, I'm going to do a documentary, but obviously I'm going to produce it, I'm not going to do it. I don't know how to film. He's going to do it. So I asked him, I went for it first, and I said, if there's funding, would you do the documentary? Because he's amazing, has a film, director and all that. And he said, yeah. So when I got the funding, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. And it was such and this is the thing about working with young people, it was so easy. Cass, it was so easy. He just did his bit, I organised everything, the production bits, which I learned. Working in the council helped me with the admin. And
so your parents were right.
They were right. Learn to use a computer. But it was so easy. And I realised that we as older people, we've got to tap into the young people.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't have to do, in fact I did too much on my end, which I didn't need to do. That was my imposter syndrome. But so it made me realise about storytelling, about capturing images. But it's like these things came to me. But I think if you're in the right place and you are open, I think these things, it's not meant to be. People talk about glass ceilings, but I think I've done a lot of things free. I don't have kids. That's the one thing I haven't done is have children. But I feel like I'm like a child. And I grab, when it comes, I just think there's a reason. And it's not just for me. My journey is interpersonal.
Yeah.
It's for the people that come behind me.
Yeah, no, powerful. And I suppose through the documentaries, the question leading on from that is, what are the themes that are kind of identified, particularly those themes around, in terms of feminine themes, that divine, what am I looking for to say? I suppose there's the theme of that divine, femininity. Is that a word?
Yes, it is.
It is a word. Yes. Because
before, my spiritual journey was a lot around, it's so funny, I think God sent me into these spaces because I ended up working and having access to spaces, like someone would say, can you do a workshop with these women? So I would be in space with all different cultures, all different groups of women. Whether I was doing beauty therapy, someone would say, can you teach these women? Whether I was doing coaching or aromatherapy, people would ask me to be with groups of women, and that's when I created my own women's group. I used to run it for like 2-3 years, and I was tired. I was like, time to finish. But with every single thing I'd done, I felt the feminine presence, which I didn't feel growing up. I didn't see, especially black women, seen as divine. So that's why I create a lot of these halos around my images. And because I realised that the divine feminine is everywhere. It's nature, it's how we care, it's how we have empathy, it's how we allow cycles. We have cycles of women, how we allow things to die and come back. And in every single culture, there's this same creation myth. It's in the Christianity, it's in the Bible, it's in Hinduism, it's in Judaism, it's everywhere about this feminine nature, which kind of gets put to the back, but it's within every woman and man identified that there is a caring aspect to us. And for me, it created the stability from growing up in a space where it was often tumultuous, there was a lot of racism, being a black woman, again statistically we're behind everything, birth rights, health, mental health, and so seeing that divinity as a black woman really literally helped me and the hundreds of women that I worked with. And I think without that divine feminine, I wouldn't exist as I am today. And I think that's where I got the strength, by trying everything, because to me, I feel like curiosity is a feminine maybe not an aspect, but it's part of the feminine energy. And I'm not being binary in my nature when I'm saying that. I'm just saying that everything that is curious and soft and fluid and recurring is from a feminine divine place.
I love that.
So I just get really, it just makes it,
Take a moment. You know why I need to take a moment? Because it's such a powerful statement, that divine feminine. And for me, as I said, like in the first podcast that I did with my daughter interviewing me, was one of the things when going through a very traumatic situation where my son was really ill, but the amount of women that I didn't know that was coming up, making food for me, bringing round pots of, I don't know, casserole, lasagna, curry, whatever. Say, let me come and help you. Let me just come and do your cleaning. Let me just come and do your ironing, because they knew that I was struggling. I was just really, really struggling. But there was just so many women who, when I said I didn't know, I'd seen their face maybe in the playground dropping off the kids, but I didn't know them. But they knew my story. And so what you're saying is powerful.
It's so powerful. And you know, sitting in space, sitting in circle with women and seeing women cry and hold each other and give each other empathy, which you don't see, like you said, unless it's a tragedy or a challenge. We're seeing it more now with the younger generation, but they just had to cope. They just had to cope. And being a person who suffered panic attacks, you know, being depressed because I didn't know my capability, you know, and being able to give that to other people. It's so important that we hold on to this. We hold on to that and we take that and we use that in our everyday, because it saves people. It literally saves people, just knowing that you are not, you know, no good. Like I say, a lot of the women I worked with have had some kind of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, and being able to tap into their divine femininity as just the transformation. And that is the foundation we need to operate on, because it enables us to be empathic to our own self. You know, it's really important.
No, touched my soul, for sure, touched my soul. Yeah, it's an emotional narrative. So we are doing, yes, a podcast, and here is a lady, here is a person who does podcasts. Absolutely brilliant. So I want to talk about your podcast. Yeah, the Candid Conversation. Yeah. And I suppose what motivated, with all the things that you've already done, you don't think, okay, I'm going to pause.
No. ADHD.
I'm going to just take a rest. You go, you start a podcast, and your guests have been super interesting. Brilliant narrative. There is a story in them. I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, there's a good story here. Then let's not, there's another good story here. So I suppose what motivated you to start?
Okay, so many years ago in the internet, before Facebook and Instagram, there used to be like bloggers. We used to be part of bloggers and lots of creatives together. And every single blog, you'd have so the format would be, you'd have a blog, you'd have a little podcast, and then much like if you use coaching, the format is like coaching, podcast, whatever. So many years ago, I decided I wanted to just talk. What was that talk? And I had so much stories, again, it's just like bursting out. And I wanted to create a podcast that my clients could go refer back to, because sometimes I was, and also some students, I was getting the same questions again and again and again. And I was like, well, do you know what, instead of keep asking me the same thing, you've got this to refer. And also they would say to me, can you create a podcast? So I did that, and then I left it. But it was for my journey, because I think one of them was my mother, myself, and all other stuff at the beginning. So I did about 4 episodes, because I like to overcommit and don't like to let people down. So I'm like, let me just do 1 season rather than just do 1 and take a breather. Like, that was my beating myself up. So I did that first, and then I left it for years, literally. I think it was on SoundCloud. And then I came back, and I thought, okay, and I had a coach. And she's like, get your podcast up, because podcast is a very good way to get clients. That's how I found my coach. Ages ago, I found my coach being on a podcast, and so I did that. So I did the second lot, and then I thought, I can't remember if I've got season 2, I've got clients interviewing in that one. But the reason I did seasons is because if you get burnt out with podcasts, you've got seasons. Whereas if it's continuously ongoing, which I find with a lot of my clients, they would say, oh, I'm doing a podcast, and just abandon it. And I said, it doesn't look good. Just do seasons.
Yeah, that's good advice for me, actually.
Yeah, because then this is you growing with your podcast, and if you need to take a break as life, then you've got your seasons. So, and then it's a short period of time. So I did that, and then when I was coaching, the format was about coaching, money, earning, and then it was all at home, so I could get people, because it's hard getting guests, pinning guests down. And so I think most of them was my clients. There was a couple, Jo was never my client, but I said, Jo, do you want to be on a podcast? She said she'd come on. And Chia was kind of a part of my membership, so she came on. And then Pamela asked me to be on her podcast. So there was a few people, but there was a lot more that didn't turn up. And a lot of them got stage fright. Or they said, I don't have capacity to do it, because I think podcasts stir something inside people. But I thought it was a really good resource for my clients. So a lot of the stuff I'd cover with my clients, I said, do you know what, this is a good podcast. I'm going to share that. And they're like, can you do that? Yeah. And somebody else found me from a podcast.
Oh, excellent.
From DC. She's not black. Mallory, amazing artist, lecturer. So for me, it was a really good resource. I'm trying to come back, but I'm kind of like, I've done 3 seasons. I really want to make it, like I started talking about relationships and dating with Chia, the last one. So I kind of want to make it more candid again. So it depends on, my other client keeps saying to me, I must bring it back, but I just brought it as a resource. I really think we need to leave footprints. And I think no matter what level of podcast, I just set it up on my computer and just recorded, and then it was my iPhone, and then edited
The
it.
quality is very good.
iPhone, Audacity, I put it on,
Oh, okay.
and then I just use Zoom sometimes with some people. Yeah. Because I know that if I did it all I think I would get a podcast editor now. But I think if I didn't do it then, we was during lockdown, and if I didn't do it, life would have got in the way. And I just thought, let me just get them out, so people have got a resource.
Yeah, that was me. I was procrastinating for a good 18 months before starting.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here now. And I suppose, still sticking with your podcast, what would you say in the seasons those themes are, and what's the impact that you've had an impact?
I think it's been really good. I wish I had it when I was growing up, or I was younger, or I was starting out.
So true.
Because a level, we've got an actress, we've got Jo, Doctor Who. Then we've got a black doctor, GP, who's becoming a holistic therapist, or mixes it both together. Then we've got Crazy Cheer and myself, just being funny. And then we've got people, there's parts where I've talked about my earnings. I've been really transparent about what I've earned when I was coaching a lot. I talked about when I got funding, so the Arts Council funding. So everything I've done, I've left a footprint. So I think it's been really good. But for me, the best season, the best one, were when I had a guest, actually, and who was Mars Lord, who was doula, business, coaching. I think it was just so nice, professional women sharing their stories. I think it's so important for other people that can say, well, I can relate, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, all kinds of podcasts, and I think if it wasn't for those women that I listened to, I'm not just doing all these different things I'm doing. It's not just me doing on my own. It's podcasts I've listened to, books I've read, seeing people speak on television and stuff, and they've motivated me. And I've had a lot of, my community has been a lot of people in America, because it's been online. So I've been hanging up, my coach is America, and the women I was in a program with was African American. And I think being amongst all those people, they really push you and they really support you. I think we do it now in this country now, but years ago I had a lot of support from those women, and I think that's why I had the attitude of I can do, this is coming along, I can do it. I think if I didn't have those women or that support, I don't think I would have done half the things. My mind would have got in.
Thank you very much. So we are going to swap over, and I'm going to let our BAMM, our Bennu Ambassadors for My Matters, come and sit where I am sitting.
So, as Kaz mentioned, you have a podcast.
Yeah.
So, how do the themes in your podcast shape your storytelling approach?
In the podcast?
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm neurodivergent, right? So I go with where the energy is, but also I love making lists, so I love bullet journaling. So I would write down what I wanted people to listen to, what experience was they going to have. I like this one. What experience they was going to have. So I would always tie it to if I was so during lockdown, and I was building my coaching business, or rebuilding it, I would say, I would always have some launches around that. So if I was having a program or a launch, I would be working out, so highly creative, capable creative, what would that person who would want to book me as a coach want to know?
Yeah.
So they would like to know about income, if they're creative, maybe about funding, productivity, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So all those things that person would want to know how to function in their business. And I would create a podcast around that. If I could get a guest, I would still have a guest, but I would ask them the questions that maybe that person would be asking me or themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I dropped my glasses. So what they'd be asking me or themselves. So most of the time it would be about authenticity, managing success. So how do you manage success? Like you're doing well, how do you manage that? What are your habits like? You know, it's all around those kind of things. So it would be about that same question is what would be the end result?
Yeah.
And then chunk back.
Yeah.
You know, so what are they getting? And also how can I get them to maybe sign up for my program if they wanted to? So there needs to be questions in there, or I need to be showing knowledge in those questions,
Yeah.
or in that podcast, so it answers all those people's questions. So that was when I was really in my coaching part. Much afterwards, all that information was there. It was more about creative practice.
Yeah.
So now somebody who wants to know about their practice, how businesses are, the nature of our businesses, can be quiet 1 minute, can be busy another. So then I would kind of plot, like, what questions are these people going to be asking me, or what questions would they want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I would structure it. So it's literally problem solution in the podcast. But just not have it too rigid, but just write it out first so it's inside of me, and then it would just come anyway. Our brain literally provides all the answers. All we've got to do is get out of the way.
Okay, so additionally to storytelling, like you've got all your lovely artwork behind you. How do you express your storytelling through your artwork?
Now, it's really funny because I meditate a lot. I spend a lot of time quiet, funny enough, all this stuff I do. There's a lot of time in meditation and contemplation.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it until my creative director cousin said, you're giving your brain space to rest. So my contemplation is where I get my, what I call downloads or inspiration. So with these big pieces, I know I want to show the woman as a divine, like massive, that's why they're big. I kind of have an outline, it's a sketch, but then I just surrender. So this has taken me a year to paint because my brain has been involved. Once I let go, things come more. So it's more about, okay, these colours are going to work, but I try not to overthink it. There's some times where I would overthink it and it really works. Or I'll be quite strategic. If I'm doing something like a collage, I'm using a colour, or maybe using, I don't know, some embedded stuff in the work. But a lot of the times, it's like, okay, these are going to be a theme now, but I'm going to surrender when I'm in the process. Because I think I trusted relationships as much as I trusted surrendering, but you know as an artist, it's that space of, which can't be quantified sometimes, most of the times, as artists, we just say it just happens. Even though we plan, so it's almost like I'm going on a trip. I'll give you a metaphor. I'm going on a trip. I know I need food, I know I need water, maybe something warm, maybe some comfortable shoes, and then I go on a journey. But I can't explain what will happen in that journey, but I know I have food, I'll have water, and I'm going to come back with some learning. That's how creating is to me.
I love the way you explain that, really, I love that a lot. Okay, so what do you think, as a great storyteller yourself, what do you think makes a story truly impactful?
It's so funny this question has been asked because I've just completed a residency in Stratford and I stared at the wall for 4 days, even though I wrote some things down, and I think it was meant to be a digital piece because that's where a lot of art is moving. So I had to make an audio piece again. I'm like, why am I always getting these audio works, right? But it's important because everything's going online. And then I love Joseph Campbell, which is the hero's journey. And I thought, that has been my journey, right? Most people's journey. So I looked into it again more with a different eye. And really impactful storytelling it's a hero's journey. They talk about this in film and drama and everything, that, you know, somebody goes on a road, you know, has adversity, and then they meet people on the way, helpers and people that help them, and then they meet the great creator, and then they have another fall, and then they come back with the elixir, but the elixir is all the trials and tribulations that have made that person, but they can return back to their community with all that stuff. And I think that everybody has done many things, they're just not being confident enough maybe, or trained enough or experienced enough in telling that story, but everybody has an amazing story to tell. I think what makes a good impactful story is to be unapologetic as possible. So if you're going to make a mistake, do that unapologetic. I always have a policy, you're going to make a mistake, do it well.
Yeah.
Be real. We're not perfect. Perfect is a construct. It's a colonized social construct of perfection. It doesn't exist. The more we lean towards being imperfect, the more perfection, sounds like I'm going back, the more perfect we can, or the more superhuman we can be. And I think that the more unapologetic we are, and we embrace all of the things that make us imperfect and flawed, the more great our storytelling is. I don't have any agenda. I have agendas, but whenever I create something, even if I create a documentary, a story, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for the story.
Yeah.
You know. So if you look at Basquiat, I can never pronounce his name properly, but his best work, in my opinion, was when he first started. And the minute he became popular and he started to sell for thousands, yes, his work was more refined, but when I saw his work at the at Barbican, the beginning works just literally felt like it was jumping out to me. So an impactful story is the one where you're just being real and honest.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so as a professional artist,
Sorry.
as a professional artist, what advice would you give to students like me who are trying to make a career out of art? Like, it's clearly that you've done really well with your art career.
It's not the same as coaching, there's no 50k there. But no, I'm joking, but yeah.
Yeah.
What advice?
Yeah.
Do you know what I think? I think be very unique. Find the place within you that really moves you. For me, it's storytelling, like heritage. It's my culture. I feel like it's a mystery. My my upbringing and being from Caribbean background, where there's I can't trace my family back past 1900s, right? I've gone back far. Maybe I can, but at the moment I can't see the record. But it intrigues me more. But when I look at my work, there's evidence of my family members in my paintings. So it's obviously been there. So I say open up to what you're really passionate about, and find that and keep working with that, keep refining that. I would say be like a child, romance yourself. There's a really good book called The Artist's Way. I haven't got it on that bookshelf, but it's at home. And she says go on an art day. So I go on an art day. Tuesdays is normally my mental health day, right? So I take time out for myself. I think really be curious. Don't just look on social media and compare yourself, because everybody's journey is different. And unfortunately, social media has killed a lot. But have a sketchbook, have a practice, try to go for all the mediums, like work with all different mediums, just to play, and because I never get my cousin saying to me, even when I was selling art, I said I'm doing a life drawing class, he said it will open up your mind so much as an artist. And I kid you not, it's been the best thing doing life drawing again, because that freedom of it. And so I just think as an artist, be disruptive. You know, artists are the voices of the community, so don't be afraid to disrupt.
I like that. Thank you. Okay, I've got one last question for you. Okay, so looking ahead, how do you see your art career and mentorship evolving?
So I've realised, because I was working with a lot of private clients, it was really brilliant, and but I want to, with the mentorship now, because so many younger people are dropping into my lap, they're just finding me and they're hanging on to me and mentoring me, which I love. I want to do more public art, which I'm doing, but I want to do more funded art. So in a way, nurturing more younger people, but getting public money to nurture them, to create more better mentorships, whereas so I can support them, you know, because I had a volunteer here that was helping me over the summer. I did so many different projects, and so she came from Young Volunteers, neurodivergent, autistic, so I understood when she would get overwhelmed, and we would laugh about it, but her soft skills, her social skills changed so much, you know, and I just wish there was a project where more people like herself could come into and work with me. I've had young women come into the studio, and black women, and cry, because in America there's lots of people like myself. There is a lot in London, but maybe not East London, and for them to see that, I would like young people to be able to have that opportunity, but we need to get paid, so I feel like that needs to happen more, and I would like to direct. I'm just thinking about it now. Because I'm in so many different public spaces, I would like to be in more. That's why I want my work, this kind of work, to be in a museum. Not because I want it to be, oh, it's in a museum, but I want more younger women. Because when they see my work, they say, I love the work. I've had young girls, when it's been in public spaces, say, oh, I like that Marilyn's work, and I'm saying, I'm the artist, and they're like, oh my God. So for me, I want young men and women, however they identify themselves, or gender fluid people, to be able to have access to spaces or opportunities. So the mentorship, I think that's how I want to do. With my art, I love painting, I'm always going to be a painter, there's a magic in that. But used in film to tell the divine feminine story, to tell stories, or to give people, you know, an opportunity to see our story. But I just feel that there's space for us, there's creativity for us, and I just want us to take up physical space as an art form.
Thank you.
Your questions are amazing. Oh my God, Kaz's questions are amazing as well, but like, this is their generation, isn't it?
All Kaz. All Kaz. We've got a big Kaz on this, honestly.
They're amazing questions.
Honestly.
Well, they were run by you to you know. Make sure that's what you wanted to say, and that you got something out of it. So
She's made me
every opportunity to tweak.
But I think younger people should be, for us, I think we need those questions, because it's really helped me, because I didn't think about the mentorship. I was thinking about it, or that I just need a break. And then, but I do think that's important, that as she's asked that question about, they are coming to me. I'm surrounded by all these young people. Like, I'm like their auntie, mother thing.
Yeah.
And one's just asked me to be a trustee of her skate charity. And I do adore her. She's really lovely. And I'm like, yeah, I will do it. You know, she took me to lunch. Can you be my trustee? And I'm like, my God, you know, like, and I think those questions about, we just need those. I never had that, you know. I had 2 people, but after that, this road I took, I had to fight a lot of people. Why are you doing this? Why don't you just get a normal job? Why don't you just do this? It's not making us feel... You know, I had to fight, guys, a lot of people. This job has not come without its
No, I
stars.
can imagine. And also those questions only came about because of the conversations that we had in terms of your own studies and your own sort of growth as a young person, as an artist. Okay, so yeah, super thank you to our ambassador. Amazing, truly. Yes, this is why we have ambassadors, BAMM, Bennu Ambassadors for Mind Matters. And like he was saying, I think that, yeah, definitely a lot was learned because I was listening. And yeah, very insightful, very informative. Okay, so moving on to our
SQ.
signature question. And it's, when did you realise that self-care was important to you? And what changed for you? So when did you realise that self-care was important? And what changed for you?
Well, two things happened. I think the first thing at 21, when my mum said to me I can't go to Brighton Polytechnic to do textiles, I had to get a job. I was working for a fashion company, just doing admin, and I started to get panic attacks. Nobody got panic attacks back in those days, right? Or if they did, they didn't know what it was. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was dying. And so it's not until it made me research every single thing, every single complementary therapy, and then I realised it was someone that said to me, you know, this is the reason why it's happened, because you feel trapped, you know. And so I started to have a little self-care kind of practice. So I wasn't doing it as heavy as, that was 21, so it was just little things, but my self-care at the time was reading personal development books. And then much later, the main thing when I realised self-care was important was when I was coordinating, when I started to do the art. Because I was coordinator for Bennu Adult Ed, and I was coordinating the holistic and beauty department, and I started to get a ball patch in my hair, back of my head, and I was getting really stressed, because that's when I realised people pleasing. I was doing so much because it was a good job, it paid well, and it was that voice in my head, you've got to do well, you've got to do well, you've got to do well. So I did so much that I got burnt out. I was just like, I need stuff to do. And so doing those art practices, being on those groups online, that's when I realised self-care and the beauty of art. And because I was having massages now and again, but that wasn't self-care to me, because it wasn't, I mean, I'd go sauna and stuff, and that was alright, take that back. That was self-care with a sauna, but it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like self-care is my boundaries, saying no. Self-care is me eating nice food. Self-care is actually going to a museum. Self-care is actually going to be a way of life, not just getting my hair done and getting a massage. It's literally my herbal teas. It's now, if I don't have these things in place, I'm going to collapse. So I have to have certain things, in place. So self-care for me, because I realised I was burnt out and I was just not fun. My hair's falling out. What's going on? I just thought, I can't live like this. I can't live like this. And so that's when I realised I need these things in my life. You know, they say about these actresses and that, and they need white silk 100 thread count sheets and candles. That is me. Well, I don't need the 100 count frame, but it would be nice.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And so, finally, we have what do you want the listeners, viewers, to take from this? What's your words of wisdom as we come to a close? Yes, and I have this is my book, words. It actually says words of wisdom.
Amazing.
Very good. Yeah, what's your words of wisdom?
I feel that everybody needs to find their rhythm like, just be honest with what turns you on in the sense of, like, what really lights you up. It doesn't have to be a career, but it just needs to be something that really makes you happy, or just gives you joy. And I always hear people say, I haven't drawn in ages, you know, I haven't picked up a paintbrush in ages. Don't worry about what you haven't done. Just do it now, I think. Well, so we do it now. Be kind to yourself as well. Because I think the biggest enemy we have is the one between our two ears, and it's our thoughts. So I think just how I started off with this art journey again, is by drawing and painting as a way to look after myself, and it became a career. So
Marilyn, thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure. Marilyn Fontaine, everybody, and also thank you to our young ambassador who did an excellent job. Super.
amazing.
Yay! This is the KJ podcast. Follow, subscribe, make a comment. As ever, take great care of yourself.
You've been listening to the KJ podcast featuring BAMM, Bennu Ambassadors for Mind Matters. We would like to extend a huge thank you to our guest. Post-production editing by Chantal Mattis, KJ jingle by Zenya Adunwo, and voiceover by Bennu Ambassador. Finally, as Kaz would say, take great care of yourself.